All right. So let's record. I'm leaving REI. I've got the camera on my helmet. Oh man, what a nerd. So just getting everything arranged. But I think it'll be pretty interesting to see what happens biking through Albuquerque and what kind of stuff would you not expect if you don't ride your bike on the streets, on the bike paths, and in this kind of city setting. If anybody watching knows what it's like to go to REI, it's not car friendly. A few people might walk there, but pretty much everybody goes via motorized vehicle. But I got my bicycle, so onto the side street I go. No way am I heading out towards the overpass that goes over I-25. I need to get to the bike trail. I used to go through the parking lot of this white motel in front, but they put up a fence. I'm not really sure why. It's kind of obnoxious in my opinion, but I guess they gotta keep the riffraff out, and apparently I'm the riffraff. So into the parking lot of this adjacent building, which I think, based on the kind of liquid oxygen tank and the general layout of the place, is some sort of retirement or skilled nursing facility. Based on my history of working in nursing, that's probably, I think it's a pretty fair guess. Didn't see anybody outside, but it's hot. It was about, I don't know, 5 o'clock, so not many people outside yet. Going past, I thought, oh, there's this little swimming pool area. Oh, hope you put that on the brochures. That is a cellar. Very nice. Anyway, happy to move on through a parking lot without much traffic, and certainly I'm not going to get on the road here. Cars are flying around, so onto the sidewalk. Let's do that. Technically, you're probably not supposed to be on sidewalks, but technically, I also don't want to get hit by a car. So on the sidewalk, I go. And just keeping an eye on who's coming, who might be turning, because I do need to get back into the street. I am going to have to cross this street to get back onto the bike path. This is supposedly a bike lane. It's really just the shoulder where the garbage is collected. But cars generally give you a little bit of space. I'm happy to have a white line, more so than nothing, maybe. Keep on looking back, making sure I keep an eye on traffic. It's a constant act of vigilance, and I'm about to turn left onto the bike path. Nice little bridge there that I'm not going to have to take right now. Unless I was going to go to, for example, the Balloon Fiesta Park, I'd go that way. But we're going south. We're going way south along the arroyo, so let's go into the shade. Oof. It was so nice to just get some of these moments of shade underneath the overpasses. Some fun graffiti and, random characters. Didn't really get much participation, eye contact, or anything. But you don't get much of that on the bike path. A lot of people just kind of pretending like they don't see you. It's a strange environment. Another piece of little art on the side there. Just riding along the arroyo uphill. Oof. I'm recording this audio after the fact, but man, I just remember thinking, wow, it is hot. And those transitions, when you go from the concrete to back to the asphalt, they're always so rough. So riding a bike here, there's a lot of jostling, which is not necessarily because I'm on a bike, but because I'm on a bike that's riding over broken bits of asphalt and interconnections between asphalt and concrete that just don't line up very well. I like going along the arroyo, though. It's interesting to see the layout of the city and the water that remains there, and just the starkness of it. As this video is depicting, there's not much shade. This is not a pretty place to be necessarily. It's disconnected. It's utilitarian, if you will, but not beautiful. But it comes with its own limited functionality. I'm enjoying looking up at those cars. and not being stuck in traffic. I'm much happier to go underneath here and just be on my little path. Even if I'm not moving fast, it's nice to just make slow, steady progress on the bike. Walk, looking around, making sure I'm not going to run into anybody who might be coming in from the other side. This bike network is pretty decent. It definitely allows me to get to REI from my house without going on main roads for very much time or at all. But there are, as you may see, all these little cracks in it. And so as you're riding, if you're trying to stay seated, boom, 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 that's what you'll be feeling. It's certainly an area that could be improved upon. But it's been that way for the 5 or 6 years I've been riding here, so I'm not going to hold my breath. I'll just try and toughen up a little bit. Or maybe get a bike with some better suspension rather than my fully rigid 10-speed from the 1980s. Coming around here, just looking over at those shade structures on the cars and this bridge that I will often take if I go to the library, but I'm not going that way today. In fact, I'm just going to keep on trucking forward. It's kind of nice having this almost all to myself. I often ride, just sitting back, taking in a few slow, deep breaths and relaxing. One of the benefits I find of riding a bike over driving a car, it's, you might run into trouble if you're zoning out either in a car or on a bike, but at least if you're on a bike and you run into trouble, you're not going to run somebody over and kill them. So, there's my little attack on cars. But I've got a car too, so I'm not trying to come out one way or the other. Not trying to make this pretend so black and white. I think it's just pretty interesting to see what the infrastructure looks like. This path here, I think it's probably about 4 or 5 feet wide. You've obviously got those lanes in the middle. I feel like you can't really ride two side by side if you and a partner are going the same way. Otherwise, people can't pass you easily, or people coming from the opposite way are going to be impeded. So it'd be nice if you could, and I do from time to time, but you just got to keep an eye on who's in front of you, who's coming at you, who's behind you. Just try and be aware of the fact that this is kind of a small little slice of pavement that we're afforded. Back here on the transition onto the concrete as we go underneath another pass, and you'll be able to see once I come up the hill. I always look around here just to see what's, is there any interesting artwork? Is anything stuffed into the rafters, so to speak? There's often a lot to see. But this transition point coming up as we go back to the asphalt, maybe it'll be apparent. Coming up, and looks pretty smooth. So, but when you're on the bike, it can often be a little bit jarring. I try and stand up there, absorb some of the impact. Same for these horizontal cracks in the asphalt. But at the moment, as I glanced behind me, I noticed, there's nobody coming, so I'm just taking a peek at the arroyo, just looking at the kind of monotony of it. It's amazing. Just this landscape, this very useful for a biker, but very isolated. There's this industrial kind of fenced off area, which seems like truck storage off to the right. There's a large, what I imagine is an easement there with some scrub, another biker. I try and say hi, but you can't hear that audio here. I'm just surprised at what this bike area looks like. No trees. It's not super pretty, and I think that's one area for improvement. Certain areas, as I'll see coming up in the video, demonstrate that there are utility lines next door. So there are some real challenges if you are to put trees there, but you can choose species. You can select trees that are not going to grow especially fast or especially tall. Some trees, this is also a tough environment, so you might not be able to put trees in here without irrigation. That could be an issue, add to the cost. As I've been researching more and more of how the city of Albuquerque spends money and things like I think it's called the Rail Trail Project, the one that recently excuse me, was getting a bunch of publicity for the pricing that was attached to it. It went from a couple $1 million, and then I've seen reports of 40 million up to 80 million, a combination of city supplied funds, state grants that were given, and then matching funds from the federal government. So it's pretty interesting to see how the money really can add up very fast. You know, you might think, oh, let's plant some trees, get some shade. That'll be a cheap fix. But, if there's irrigation, if you have to have some sort of maintenance about cutting it down, maybe there's some lawyers involved as to who owns this land off to the side. Is it the city land? Is it involved in any sort of easements? Blah, blah, blah. But those are real obstacles that add to the cost of things. And in future videos, I hope to look at a couple crossings that the city of Albuquerque has completed. They cost millions of dollars. And if you look at it, you think, how could this be millions of dollars? But really, looking at on the surface, it seems simple. But basically, as I think most of us know, nothing in this world is all that simple anymore. And so the price tag's balloon up. So I can understand the $80 million being allocated for cycling. I'll be curious to check that out. Ooh, one of those guys who just passed me, he was deep in racing mode. That's not my style. I'm a bit of a lollygagger. So, and now I've got this helmet camera. I look like even more of a strange strange creature on this bike path. But you'll see all sorts of people. Some people taking it pretty easy. Some people really racing. But me, I just go at probably about 12 miles an hour. I break a sweat because it's hot, but not because I'm trying that hard. Trying to get my bearings here. Where am I? I've got a few more overpasses to get through, I think, before I get to my turnoff, which is going to eventually be onto Indian School Road as I try and make my way back down towards my neighborhood of Fair West. I'm just poking around, trying to see what kind of development happens around the arroyo and around this bike infrastructure. And it seems heavily divided on what would be to the right of the video. That's the west side. There's a lot of commercial development. And then off to across the arroyo on the east side, hotels, sometimes some housing. But it's all pretty far away. I don't think anybody I didn't see many apartments. There are a few, but I didn't see many apartments that have easy access to this. For example, if you wanted to use this as your main source of transit, for example, if you worked at UNM Hospital, or if you worked at UNM main campus, this would be a great way to get there. The weather in Albuquerque is very stable. It is hot, but in terms of staying off of main roads and getting to your destination quickly, you could go from an apartment or housing that is, 20 minutes away from UNM and just bike there and not really have to get in your car. Could be a real source of, from my very biased perspective, a real win in terms of the daily commute. That's how I would go to UNM Hospital when I was employed there. But not this way. I took different routes. So now I'm coming up back in the sun. Long open stretch that I'll be going along here, just staring at the highway, which is somewhat mesmerizing, especially with so much traffic here at 5 o'clock or so. I can look off to the side and really just kind of watch traffic patterns, see people changing lanes and cutting people off or driving well, using their blinkers and not, and just kind of daydream. It's nice to have those moments where you can just kind of relax and watch the pretty shiny things move by. But once again, the landscape here is just interesting. There's it's barren in between me and the highway, and you can see the arroyo. There's water. I'm so close to water, but there's really such a dearth of life. There was written on the side there, it said U.S. Air Force poisoned Albuquerque's water, something to that effect. Um, quite a quite a strong message, which the U.S. Air Force, I don't think they can or would deny that. They've had some open houses to talk about what happened with jet fuel leaking into the groundwater around here. So, oof, so much to learn on so many topics, but that was a big piece of graffiti saying, open your eyes, people. Water's important. And they're right. I'm just letting my mind drift again here, watching the big trucks as I move probably a little bit faster than some of the westbound traffic. That intersection there, that clover leaf that I'm coming up upon, where I-40 intersects or goes underneath of the 25. Man, that's never fun to navigate it at a rush hour. But I have a nice little perch from the side where I can just smugly watch and ride my bike as I sweat. So it's a nice trade-off if you don't need to get on the highway to be able to ride your bike. And then off in the distance, there's a dark building, triangular, rectangular maybe in shape. That's one of the UNM buildings that UNM Hospital, I believe, has that building. They use it for teaching. I used to go in there for some classes. It's just got such an imposing look to it. This big black rectangle with mirrors. It's man, it's ugly as sin. Like, it's just amazing, some of the modern architecture and how they really don't seem. I know they're trying, and I know there's a lot of very hard work that goes into that. But why do they make it look like that? Why is it so sterile and devoid of life? I think there are opportunities for improvement there. But that's enough of my non-professional opinion on architecture. I'm happy to get close to my destination here of Indian School, where I'll be able to see some examples of the traffic interactions that happen when you're on a bicycle. Generally, they're fine, no problem. I just obviously will make sure not to get in the car's way, but keeping an eye out for distracted drivers who should be, who might veer off the road a little bit if I was on the shoulder, or who get surprised when they see a bicycle pull up to the edge of the road and wait for them. You get all sorts of unexpected reactions, so expect the unexpected is kind of the rule. Coming up, the city did I think a decent job in terms of giving you access to Indian School, which does have a bike lane, little stop sign here. There's a crosswalk, but doesn't really mean anything. Does anyone stop? No. For walkers, for bikers, no. And there's this little area in the middle and the median cut out so you can bike across and hang out. It's useful, but it's a little intimidating to have cars whiz by at 40 plus miles per hour as you're just sitting there hoping that gravel doesn't hit you. So I'm on the shoulder now. I do not love biking on the shoulder of Indian School. The traffic moves too fast. I generally have no trouble with cars, and by generally I mean the vast majority of people are doing their best just like I am. They're watching the road and they're not trying to cause any problems, but all it takes is a little bit of a distraction, and there could be some pretty serious consequences if you're a cyclist or a bike rider on the side of the road and you get hit by a car. So I'm going to turn into these neighborhoods pretty quickly. I would go through the the golf course, but I don't know if they like that while there are golf carts putting around. So into the neighborhood. It's a nice little reprieve. I'm happy to go through this neighborhood. Lots of custom homes, interesting architecture, landscaping that is in some ways inspiring. It gives me a lot of ideas for what I might want to do. I like the use of trees in so many of these yards. This is so much looking around here and comparing it to the feeling you have when you're on the bike path. Even though I'm on a road and have to share it with cars, this just feels nicer with the trees and the shade and the interesting things to look at. So I actually prefer biking through neighborhoods when I can, mostly, depending on the neighborhood. I think pretty much all neighborhoods and these little side streets. The problem being all these neighborhoods obviously feed into arterial roads that have high-speed traffic that has to be navigated, and doing that as a cyclist is, you know, a little bit more risk than it is if you're just going underneath of those major roads on the bike path. So pick your poison. I forgot about this house. This thing is quite the compound. Like, man, what a scene. And whew, that's massive. There's a lot of money in that house, and I think it abuts the golf course. Impressive. As you can see, a couple cars here and there, no problem. I respect them, they respect me. Neighborhoods are generally pretty nice, and even if I got hit by a car, generally people are going pretty slow, and you just kind of bounce off. My head's going everywhere. I'm just checking out everything. Lots of pretty flowers, trying to see whose garden is really blooming right now. And also wondering to myself, which direction do I want to go? So I'm coming up, thinking I'm not going to go by the golf course. I'll hang a left here. Yeah. Back towards a neighborhood I used to live in once I get across, what is this, Girard coming up? Man, the roads, I can just remember how bumpy these roads are from the video. It's not a pleasure to ride bikes on this road, which is surprising because so many neighborhoods have nice roads, but this nice neighborhood just, I don't know how old the roads are or when they were last paved, but they are showing their age, and it's another one of those things that you don't really notice when you're in a car, but when you're on a bike, you feel those differences, and those potholes, yeah, gotta look out for them. So, just checking out the greenery here to the left, very nice. Thinking, coming up, there's a little Italian wine bar, I think, up here on the corner. I've always meant to go there, haven't made it yet, but one of these days, date night, I'll have to go there. And coming up to this intersection, lots of looking around, make sure I can get across without any trouble. Relatively low speed here, but it's kind of hard to gauge who's doing what. They put on their blinker, so I'll go. Which reminds me of a little discussion I was having earlier in the day with a friend of mine, Dr. R, talking about he doesn't use a blinker because he doesn't need to. No one's around, but I don't think that car recognized me as someone close by, but when they put their blinker on, it gave me the confidence to know, oh, they explicitly are going to turn, and they were far enough away I could see the slowness represented after the blinker went on that I could go out and bike across the intersection safely, and I wouldn't have otherwise because they were moving fast. There was a car behind them. I was going to wait, but the blinker, I'm a fan. Thanks for using your blinker, car. Looking around, making sure I'm not going to cut anybody off. Oh, I forgot which way I'm going. I remembered, it's rush hour, so that is kind of influencing how I'm going to cross the next arterial road that I'm going to come to, and that's going to be Carlisle. So going through this neighborhood, thinking, all right, how do I connect over to Carlisle? Also, wow, that house is freaking massive. I'm kind of surprised it's permitted, but it gives me hope that if the city of Albuquerque will permit that much of a house on a property in this kind of neighborhood, then I can build an adobe casita in my backyard, and they better approve it, because it's going to be nowhere near as imposing as that structure is. It'll look a lot better too. So, but I mean, that looked fine, but it's just not my style. Hang a right here and make my way down towards Constitution, which is going to be my ticket to get across Carlisle so I can have a traffic light. Typically, I would try and cross in a different fashion, but when I think that there's going to be a lot of traffic and getting over a road that has a speed limit of 35, but cars going at least 45, I need the extra help of an intersection with a light. So, making my way down, just checking out the houses. Haven't seen many people outside. It's still pretty hot, so they're still inside. I'm sure in the evenings you see lots of people walking their dogs, watering the lawn, all that stuff. But at the moment, it's just me and the cars. So, making my way through, just trying to stay somewhat aware, looking around, oftentimes behind me. Um, just trying to get ideas for what I might like to do with my yard in the future. Lawns are of no interest to me, but looking to see what kind of xeriscaping people are employing, I think, is always quite interesting. Who's doing it successfully, who's starting new projects. Coming up to this stop sign, want to go to the left here, looking right into the sun, lovely. There is a bike lane / shoulder on this road, so I'll be taking advantage of that. I guess I didn't turn then. Head turn, head turn, head turn, let's go! And you can see there's a flattened little white bicyclist right there, or a painting if you will, saying, bike's okay. There's a little garbage can, because nobody actually really respects the bike lane, it's just where you put your shit. So, up we go, up we go. Time to do one of the last major crossings, or maybe I got a couple after this. Looking around at these little small businesses that keep changing in the strip mall. From time to time, I'll see something that I think, oh, maybe I'll go there one day, and then I'll come back 6 months later, and it seems like there's a different business there. This is always kind of strange. You're a bike, and you just line up right behind the cars. I got lucky, got a green pretty quickly, and then got to keep myself right in the middle, make sure I'm not going to get run over by that white car. Thank you very much. Very good. And then once I get across the intersection, okay, I can get off to the right a little bit, and cars can pass me. I can have, even though I don't have a white line, there is a decent little bit of space here. Oh, there's a white line. Thank you, Albuquerque. So now I've got my own little designated space, and cars on this relatively residential interconnecting road, they don't go, in my experience, particularly fast, but it is nice to have that visual reminder of separation. That being said, I am going to want to try and get off this road just because I don't like any road basically that has a double yellow line and a speed limit of 30. It's okay, but people don't usually go 30. There's a double yellow line, so of course they're going to respect that, and they're going to be closer to the white than the yellow. They don't want to endanger hitting another car, but that means that I have to ride a little bit closer to cars who are traveling faster than typically in neighborhoods. It's an interesting impact when you take away the yellow lines, like on the neighborhood I'm about to turn into. Even if the road's just as wide, the lack of explicit signaling with the paint really changes how people drive. The speed limit's 25. I don't know. I guess people go that fast. It's generally not a huge problem that I see. I would like the speed limit to be closer to 15. Why do you need to go 25 in a neighborhood? Just, the damage that you can do by accident at 25 versus 15 is profound. Do we really need to go 25 in residential neighborhoods? I don't think so. As a result, I bike slowly. I don't even go 15. I probably, if I exerted myself, I could go 15, but usually, as I'm saying, about 12. Just taking in another one of those big rectangular houses. I'm just not into it. It's big. I'll give them that. It's big. It's right next to the park, which is a decent little park, I guess. I mean, I like those. I like the landscaping off to the right there. Yeah, I generally like this neighborhood. It's nice. It's upscale. There's that park again. Collection of trees, mostly just dog walkers as far as I see. No soccer. No, I think this is generally a pretty quiet, neighborhood. Not a whole lot of life that you see out in the public spaces, which that's too bad. That's actually one of the areas I would like my neighborhood to change. I'd like to see more people out and about. I'd like to be able to not necessarily wave and say hi to everybody, but just feel like the norm is okay to be out. Right now, if you're out, if you have a dog, it's okay. But if you're just walking, or if you're riding your bike, you stand out. It's kind of, you know, it as a bike rider and as a walker and as also someone who drives their car, uh, it's a car is the acceptable form from what I can in my based on the reactions I get, and walking and biking, they're regarded with some suspicion. All right, one more neighborhood traversal, another neighborhood. I think this is Pueblo Alto. Nice little easy to bike through neighborhood. Happy to go through here. Generally not heavy traffic, enough stop signs that people don't try and cut through here from, I don't know, they don't try and cut through from Indian School or Constitution to Lomas. So it's good for biking, and lots of trees and interesting tires in the road to look at. But generally, a pretty nice neighborhood, and come holiday time, a nice place to come and see people dress up their houses, lots of lights. There's some, what do they call it? Santa's Little Village, something like that. Santa's Playground. There's a house that goes all out for Christmas, and it's probably known throughout a decent swath of Albuquerque. Trying to figure out how to turn left here and not go in front of anybody. Very good. Left, left, left. The neighborhood here goes through a bit of a transition. It goes from single-family homes to duplexes and a handful of different apartments. Still quite nice. Doesn't seem to, at least from the outsider's perspective, it doesn't seem to be any source of problems. So I've heard a number of people complaining about density increases at different city meetings, but I think here is a pretty good example of what mixed density can look like, and it's not even that mixed. Although there is a mixture coming up of commercial. I think I'll circumvent that. I can't help but look at those solar panels. It's an impressive array there, facing pretty much due south. They must generate quite a bit of electricity with that. Is this my turn? Yep, apparently that's my turn. So coming up towards the Los Cuates, I always look out for those UPS trucks. They got a mission, so I need to make sure that I don't get underneath their in their way, basically. Again, looking at these apartment complexes, they look pretty decent from the outside. If anybody lives there, I'd be curious to hear how the management is. Coming up to my crossover Lomas, I chose this direction because there's a stoplight that I utilize coming up onto the sidewalk. The sensors won't pick me up unless I get onto the sidewalk and hit that button. And I did. Fantastic. And double check and make sure nobody's gonna break the rules and cream into me. Nope. And then this guy coming out of the church parking lot, or whoever they are. All right, they stopped. Awesome. Coming through one of the last neighborhoods on my way back home. Just trying to keep an eye out for who's driving where. I don't want to be a jerk, and I want to make sure that I don't surprise anyone with my movements. So it's a give and take. That's one of the things with cycling. Some people might feel that cyclists are just trying to get in the way. I can only speak for myself, but I'm not trying to be in the way. I'm just trying to get to my destination. Trying to do it safely, and I think I'm pretty respectful. Looking out for that Amazon. Try not to be in the way if the door opens. Sometimes, though, just being in the road can get some pretty interesting reactions from people, I'm looking around, cars have to stop. I don't move that fast. But I do try and follow the rules of traffic. Although they don't really, although bikes are supposed to follow the rules on the road, the rules are unequal. So it requires some interpretation. On a road like this, if you're a car and you're driving forward, no one's going to pass you unless they're being a jerk. But if you're a bike, everyone passes you. And so you have a decision to make. Do you bike so far to the right that you have to come out when there are parked cars and then get back in the zone of being in the flow of traffic? And it's there's a subtle art to it. So coming through this neighborhood, just poking my head around. It's nice not nearly as nice. The homes aren't as custom, but this is, in my opinion, a pretty decent little neighborhood to live in. A friend of mine lives down the street, and I've always enjoyed walking over to that place or just down the street to a coffee shop. Humble's not far from here. But the intersection coming up is going to be with San Mateo, probably the biggest road I'll have to cross on this whole trip. So this one, depending on how traffic is, can either be really easy or somewhat stressful. So you'll see here my strategy. I'm on the left side of the road because I'm getting off the road. I'm getting up onto the sidewalk. I will reconnect with the road, but up onto the sidewalk and then curling around so that I can get into that left turn lane. That's going to be my safety zone because I'm generally not fast enough to cross all at once. So off the sidewalk into the turn lane, and oh, what a nice little surprise. It's all clear. So I don't have to hang out in the turn lane, and I can immediately get into Fair West. That's it. We made it. Fair West. Nice. All right, end of the video. Oh, that car is still broken down. That's too bad. All right, tune in next time.